Good morning. Afternoon. Nope, still technically morning. Well, hi. So, the other day I started to talk about or allude to the fact that we have a cult. Now, what I've been doing is kind of digging, trying to sort of diagnose some of this stuff, figure out what's going on, try to define it, really define what's going on. I'm still just, sorry, give me a second. I'm all like, I'm not used to having a new office and it's just a bit distracting. And I've also been fucking around with tech and the sound sucks. I finally, at the old house, started to get into a bit of a rhythm and then it all fucked up because there's different noise and different light and all of this stuff. And also, part of what I've been doing is trying to be a little bit more structured, sophisticated, educational as I go, and that just adds a whole bunch of extra fucking pressure. But anyway, so I watched back the other day's video, and I noticed that I kept saying, I'm going to tell you why wokeness is a cult, right? Why we're seeing cults form, a little bit of why I know this to be true, and I'll go back through a few of the older presentations and courses that I actually used to give and actually used to do for marketers. Now, unfortunately, I can't seem to find the presentation that literally just plays out how marketers could use cult psychology to build tribes online. This was from God. I've been doing this for fucking yonks. It was either 2009 or 2010, but it's been a very long time, right? Now, so this is why I know that this is happening, but I also know that it's, if you understand it from the business side, how this has occurred, and also I think it's just some funny stuff, going through old presentations, that sort of thing. I think my audio might be peaking out. Hang on a sec. There we go. I can only go, I'm not good with the producer side of stuff. I'm not trained in fucking AV production, so please be patient with me while I learn. It's quite a learning curve, whatever. Anyway, doing the best I can. So, okay. Now, 3 minutes in, talk shit. Okay. Now, what I thought was funny was that I was going through some old stuff. I was trying to find a specific webinar. Fuck. Back when webinars were a thing. Stop doing that stupid fucking funnel shit. It's out of date. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So, but I was going through old notes, right? I was trying to find a specific presentation where I sat down and I said, look, this is how you can use trolling to your advantage. Good kind of trolling, the innocent kind of trolling, not the trolling that we see today. This is how you can use, using the true fans principle, and a little bit of cult psychology and all of that sort of stuff. Like, I was building IP around this very early on, and I was actually teaching marketers how to do it. That's why I feel a little bit responsible. I'm not saying that I've had like great influence, but just through, I haven't had a shabby career, right? A lot of my IP has, whilst I don't necessarily get the credit for it, people like to steal my shit. So I've had some influence on the thinking around this stuff. So anyway, I'm just going to go through that, but I'm also going to, I was alluding to this in the previous video, which was what a cult actually looks like. Now, everyone is turning around and calling their fucking opposition a cult, right? And that's the problem with a lot of this stuff, right? This perfect storm that we're in is that words, concepts are being sort of stripped of meaning, and it's become this weird personality-driven debate, personality and brand and fucking superficial conversation. Something as simple like yesterday where it's clear what framework I'm working within, where I talked about something about a class analysis. And these fucking dickheads started talking about it through a different lens, misappropriating it, stripping it of its meaning. And it's like, no, it was clear that I was talking about class analysis, not individual feelings. If you start making stupid fucking comments about individuals' feelings versus actual class analysis, that's not a fucking rebuttal, okay? We're working from different frameworks. Okay, like these dudes that are like, oh, you said gender is a construct. No, we didn't. Okay, you're showing that you don't understand the theory behind this. You're showing that you don't understand what it means when I talk about men as a class, right? My feminism is political. My marriage is very happy. Okay, you need to stop fucking personalizing political conversation, and you're just making yourselves look like a fucking idiot. Okay, your individual feelings in a conversation about class analysis, you're not winning. Okay, and that's why you've only got insults and only got comebacks and only got jokes. Nah. Okay, anyway, I got that off my chest. Journos, fucking learn class analysis, okay? Not just fucking hot take blogs on everything, okay? There's a whole world of fucking philosophy out there, and there's a whole world of perspective. So if you're just sitting there and fucking picking, anyway, I'm not going to get into what happened yesterday, even though I'm pissed off, okay? But anyway, a blue check basically quote tweeted me, fucking took everything out of context, knowing full well that I was working differently, and sicked her fucking MRA fucks on me. So, you know, she knew what she was doing, and it's not right. But anyway, but this is again, cult leader, right? These are cults, right? It's cult thinking. When you learn to spot a cult, it gets me back on topic for once. All right. Okay. Now, so this initially started as, let's use this little tribal psychology thing, okay? How can we use tribal psychology to build, and it started as, from a marketing point of view, it probably started with things like the true fans principle, okay? Which is that idea that if you could, as a musician or a creative, if you can find 1,000 fans, right? Honestly, it's probably more like 100 fans now, but 1,000 fans, right? Who would buy everything that you make, who would support everything that you do, who would turn up to all of your things, you can make a sustainable living as an artist, right? With freedom, right? So don't pander to the, it's like going broad versus going specific, right? You've got Dane Cook as a comedian versus Doug Stanhope. Doug Stanhope really gets his true fans principle, as does Ricky Gervais, right? Ricky Gervais is interesting because he's got true fans at scale. That's where he's a very good marketer, right? He understands it and he gets it, and he's very smart because he's managed to make it fucking 1 million true fans. And that's where you get super fucking rich. Anyway, so the true fans principle is basically you want the most loyal, the most cashed up, and you don't care necessarily about those that aren't true fans. So, and sort of a weird unintended consequence of this is that you create an other. Okay, and this is where we were talking a little bit about sort of, there's been concepts such as polarization. So using, when you sit down, right, as part of your exercises for a brand, right, you sit down and you identify who your true fans are. Okay, now that could be a persona. Okay, so for a senior corporate marketer, that would just be a persona, right? Not a superficial demographic persona like most people are used to, but that really deep diving into the psychology, into their interests, what they love, what they hate, and this is where it becomes. I think people don't understand why this data is so powerful and so dangerous in the wrong hands, because there is a point where I was actually pushing for psychographic work, pushing for deeper empathy exercises. I mean, you can see some of my older content. A lot of it is pushing for deep understanding of customers, right? Deep understanding of their journey. It's called human-centered design, right? So this is where marketing and advertising really intersect, marketing, advertising, and politics really intersect with each other, and why I probably see this a little earlier than most people do, right? And unfortunately, I've always been about 5 years ahead of the market, which is why I am still sitting in my lounge room, right? It's like I see Brian Solar share my shit 5 years later, and it's like, because I've always had bad timing, and I get bored and move on, right? So I just go, oh, look, there's this thing you should do this. And then 5 years later it goes mainstream and then everyone else gets fucking money out of it. But I've gotten bored and moved on to the next thing that's going to happen 5 years from now. So that's just one of those things, mate. If I could get paid to be a futurist or some sort of person, then that would be cool, but whatever. So anyway, I think you can see that my lack of focus and lack of structure, it's not through lack of intelligence, it's the way that my brain works, right? Which is why just monologuing on a stream is probably the only thing, it's my only outlet, really. But anyway, so... Also, Katie said hello. If you're still there, hi. So what's been interesting to me, it's interesting that Katie's on this stream because she'll probably know what I'm alluding to about people who misuse this cult psychology stuff through MLM, through coaching businesses, through this buy my ebook fucking, all of this multi-level coaching fucking horse shit, right? That's one example where cult psychology and true fans principle, but it's been weaponized to a point where it takes advantage of people, right? So one example, that's another common thing, right? So again, back to cults, Taya. Fucking hell. So, definitions up front first, okay? I'm using cults in the... so there are good cults and bad cults, okay? People use it as a pejorative term. They use it as a fucking insult for their enemy. Everyone just strips these things of meaning. But what I'm doing is I'm using the definition of, not like a cult movie or cult classic, like fandoms, right? Fucking stutter. Fandoms, right? I'm using it in the strictest definition of a destructive cult, right? A dangerous cult. Something where it tips from being sort of a fan or a group or something with enthusiastic followers, right? Like a fandom, into a destructive and dangerous cult. Now, I've been observing, and this is why I've been talking about this woke cult, because I think that this is an unintended consequence of this sort of nudging that marketers have been doing, nudging and the highly politically charged climate, but also people trying to find a sense of purpose beyond, without religion, and a number of other things. But so... I lost my spot. I'll just keep letting words come out of my mouth and hope that something makes sense. Anyway, so it's a perfect storm. Advertising meets politics. Okay, now Cambridge Analytica was one example of that, but there are many, many others. And I'm going to gradually tell little stories from various things in history, like the Tumblr versus 4chan wars. We're toying with these tribes, right, as marketers, where we went wrong. Now, just for shits and giggles, right, I'm going to show you, this is a course, right, that I can't find. Again, some of this material is now 10 years old, so I can't find the original material. So all I've got is the brief notes, right? But this was a course that I ran, right, which was an 8-week course in 2010. I know it's funny now, and it's still actually quite relevant. I'd be quite happy to reboot this course as an online thing if people want it. But it was called Delivering Strategic Social Media. So the context in 2010 was that social media really hit, okay? Businesses were reacting to it. They were confused by it. Right, so I think this is the 2013 version. There was an much earlier version, but this is about 2013. Okay, so I'm just going to read it out because I want you to see, you can see the murmurings of something dangerous that's going to occur. Now, I am going to get to defining cults, okay? Because I promised I'd do it in the last video. And I also fucking spent time creating a chroma key fucking PowerPoint template so that it looks really nice and fucking looks at goes over my screen. So let's not waste that. I want to show off how I did that. That's why my stream's late, because I spent 2 hours fucking around with the fucking PowerPoint. Anyway, this is just an old Google Doc. I'm not going to go into it, but really, you can see where the pitch is, right? And you can see, like, this might seem like it might not seem like a great sort of insight in 2020, but in 2010, I was fucking ahead of the game. Okay, so if your story is like most of us, there was never really a plan for social media. It just kind of happened. You dabbled, you had complete control over your message. Your customer service team used the phone and email using canned responses during business hours. Your people had their personal accounts and you were blissfully unaware of what they were up to, right? Your IT department were happily managing the website, fucking IT, and fighting with your marketing team over their unauthorized access to Twitter and Facebook, right? There was a time when corporate IT used to block social media, right? Yeah, gather around the campfire, my children, and let me tell you of a time, okay, when people actually did work and didn't tweet fucking politics from their publicly funded public service fucking desk and waste everyone's time. I blogged in my public service job because it was blocked. We all waste our time. Anyway, so, and these are just ideas that I had for some cartoons. Actually, they're quite funny cartoons because they actually ended up being correct, right? Which, like, here's a cartoon, which is a 3 split, right? The internet's awesome. Look at me drunk at a party. And the too busy corporate chick. What a waste of time and energy. I got real work to do, losers. Remember those bitches who would sit there and pretend that, like, because they didn't have time for Instagram, that it was useless. There's still those people, right? But those are the fucking assholes, those stupid corporate women, right? They annoy the shit out of me because now they're all on Instagram fucking pretending that they knew what was going on. They're now social media fucking experts, which I find hilarious. Now I'm just being petty. Sorry about that. Anyway, the IT basement dude, right? With anonymous username on Usenet. Cats, porn. So, not much has changed. Lots has changed, but not much has changed at all, right? So anyway, so then things went awry. It all collided into a massive ball of what the fuck. Online and offline, public and private, real and imagined. Real names and pseudonyms, mothers and friends, our boss reading our blog, our employees writing publicly about our business, people talking to journalists and journalists printing it. I like this one, this idea for the cartoon because it still fucking applies, which is cartoon journalist, right? This just in, fuck it. Just go on Twitter, I got nothing. It's funny because like that was early days, right? This was early Twitter, right? I know that I'm laughing at my own jokes right now. I'm just rediscovering this, and it's funny how that's why I recommend that people do write things down, keep a record of things, do write their thoughts down because it's funny to go back and see how right you were, right? This was actually quite validating to know that I had this fucking peg early on, right? Another 3 split. The internet sucks. My girlfriends found out about each other and one is my boss. I'm reading this the same time you are, so I apologise if I'm laughing a little too heavily at my own shit. Anyway. Anyway. So look, it hits the media. Employees fired for Facebook statuses, celebrity faux pas, corporate faux pas, PR disasters, leaked recordings, lawsuits, trolls, privacy breaches. Everyone with a smartphone and a blog now has the potential to broadcast to thousands. Okay? Your customers yell at you in front of other customers. Fucking Karen. Your robotic responses only make them angrier. Yes, chatbot lovers, don't use them. And they cannot only tell their friends all about it, but they can show them in front of you. Anyway, it's quite funny. This is quite fun. But anyway, so our 8-part course in social media strategy will give you all the skills you need to evaluate, plan, and implement your social media presence in a way that keeps the board and your mother, your friends, and employees happy, right? So it's quite interesting to see how, I was teaching this early on and none of the fucking assholes bought the course, which is funny because they could really have done with it at the time. Could have avoided a lot of shit. Anyway, but that's probably not through that. It's just, again, I I get bored and moved on. The problem is that I'm smart, but I'm not fucking focused. But this was interesting, right? So this is the course information. So delivering strategic social media is an 8-week course delivered online covering key components of good and bad social media, right? Anyway, that's just boring. But this was interesting, right? Which was course outline, which was week 1. Key concepts in social media strategy. So that's boring. You know, where to start. Now, this was the one that I found interesting, and I was trying to find this particular course slide, but I can't find it. It is somewhere. But it was like creating shareable content, and finding your true fans, aka how to build your own cult. Like, I legit was running coaching courses on how to build fucking online cults. Right? Excuse me. And that's why I understand this stuff, right? Don't worry about all that shit. But anyway, I just thought that was funny. Now, the other thing that I found, right, and I know this is boring and probably too long and probably too much in one fucking thing, but I did that's my old name and my old business, but I did this presentation to the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians Conference. So every female politician, right, in the country, I did a presentation on Twitter for them, right? They didn't know what it was. They didn't know how to use it, really. This was fucking early days, right? This was me telling them to get on Twitter and use it and engage, right? This was just post Julia Gillard and and Spill, right? And I used that as an example. But what I did was obviously these stats are all old, but right? I tweet and I vote. I'm just proving that I know things and that I've been doing this for a very long time, right? So if you want to come at me with a take, fucking make sure that it's something a little more sophisticated than, Twitter is important, but okay. So, but these again, I'm just going to quickly go through this. If you're interested in actually seeing the slides, I can share them, but I'm just showing this because this is stuff that I was doing, right? Progress, right? I was asking about this. So what is social media? I still am proud of this joke, right? Which is where people and technology and like social media is social and you shouldn't snub, right? Again, you haven't got the actual speech there, so there's a few things here. And also the fonts are all fucked and it's all old and whatever, but I'm not going to fixate on it. But like how your online presence may look, right? This is early, right? Oh, there you go. Social media is not computers, right? It's a new tool to do what we've always done. And that was it. Again, that was just boring. However, right? Go back to camera main. I'm still fucking figuring out this stuff. I'm not really, anyway, whatever. I want you to know that this is what we have done since year dot, right? Which is very early on, I saw that this would occur. Very early on, right, I saw that there was potential for abuse, that politicians particularly needed to be aware of it, that marketers could exploit it, and this is the stuff that I used to be paid to do and consult on, right? Most of them didn't fucking listen. Most of them just went and got a 12-year-old to fucking do all of their social media for them. And like, this is why we're here now. Okay. But what I want to talk about is how that sort of fandom psychology, that tribalism, I didn't anticipate that this would get intense to a point where it stopped being fun and it stopped being an opportunity and it stopped being something that was good, right? And it started to become something that was evil, right? And I'm talking about marketing in general, right? Because I was in marketing, I suppose, under the umbrella of marketing, whatever the fuck. But it's just, let me think. My brain just fucking disappeared. So anyway, this live stream. Think your thoughts, Taya. Get the funnel going, think your thoughts. Now, okay, so we've accidentally created a cult, or 2 or 3 or 4. So some cults are good, some cults can be bad, but I'm talking about destructive cults. Right? Now, at one point, this was a bit of fun. We're using cult psychology in a harmless way. We're using tribal psychology. We're using true fans principle. We're using fandoms. It was all fun and games, okay? But through this, I truly believe that we have, it has been weaponized, right, by the media, who can't be fucked because they're too fucking lazy, right, to actually create decent content through, lots of different things. So, why do I think that wokeness is a cult? I don't fucking know what I'm talking about today. Now, I'm going to move because I'm switching to a thing and it's still not quite framed correctly, so I have to kind of inch over here like this. But, so this is try to actually, let's switch to something else first. Right, hang on one sec. So this is a book that I find really useful, right? It's not necessarily, like, there's lots and lots of different things, but there's lots and lots of different frameworks. But Stephen Hassan is a former Moonie. He has done a lot of work around cults, especially around destructive cults. So talking about, Moonies, Jehovah's Witnesses, all of those, the things that you think about when you think about Scientology, those sorts of things. Now, this is a good book, but there's lots of other things. You've got Lifton's Thought Reform, which I'll talk through at another point. There's so many frameworks in which to look at this. I'm doing a very, very basic summary because we're just getting to 101 level on this stuff, right? I'm still trying to get fucking coherent thoughts out. Not working very well. But anyway, so let's get screen and PowerPoint. But so I basically just ripped these 10 things, right, from a Guardian article just because it's easier, and I don't want to go too deep into thought reform because I think it's its own thing and I'm still forming thoughts around it. But it's worth thinking about and worth considering, right? Why? And this is exactly why I'm now calling this woke thing a cult, okay? Because it's another thing that I need to mention is that cults are very much, it's got nothing to do with the actual beliefs. Okay, now you got to separate the belief, and I've said this before in previous videos, separate what they're talking about, right, versus how they're behaving. So it's not I've said this before, it's not the belief that we're necessarily concerned with, right? I'm not necessarily sitting there talking about delegitimizing critical theory, right? Even though it has its issues, and yes, it's turned into a cult. I'm not there to debate the issues that the core theory behind the woke cult. What I am saying is that it is a destructive cult, irrespective of what values that they're you know what I'm saying, pushing. Like Scientology, I've said this before, social justice is to woke like, Scientology is to personal improvement, right? You start with Scientology and it sounds like a bunch of good stuff. Sounds like it helps a lot of people in the beginning, but then they take a fucking turn into crazy town and it becomes and it takes on a life of authoritarianism and destructive mind control, and people lose their minds, they lose money, they lose all of these sorts of things. Now, that's where I'm saying that this wokeness stuff has the earmarks of a new cult. And I think, I'm not sure if it is a single cult yet or a number of cults, right? Now, I'm going to debunk one thing, which is that not all cults have to have a leader, okay? It can just be the group is the cult. Now, that's one misconception where, especially fucking know-it-alls on Twitter who turn around and think that they know cults better than I do, and they actually say, well, it has to have a charismatic leader. It doesn't necessarily have to have a charismatic leader. It just has to have some sort of leadership, okay? Now, and online, that could actually just be, a fan. Like, let's just say that it might be a hub and spoke kind of model of cults. Jamil in one, other celebrity cults, right? They're kind of, yeah, anyway. And also there's a reason why celebrities are fucking drawn to this, because like they're dumb. They're rich people with not much to do, and they think that because they've got all the money in the world, because they fucking happen to be good looking, that they're actually also smart. And that's a dangerous fucking combination. Dumb rich people is very dangerous. I know this from fucking experience, right? If you're poor and dumb, you don't have any power, so you're fine. But if you're rich and dumb, you actually start to think you're fucking intelligent. It's like people with a PhD. They think that because they've got like a PhD in one topic, that they're a smart person. It's like, no, that doesn't make you smart. We're all dumb in many areas. And an interesting thing is that cults also are very appealing to smart people, because smart people rationalize dissonance a lot easier and can make excuses and sort of do all of the mind bending and rationalizing that goes with cult psychology. So just because you get caught up in a cult doesn't mean that you're stupid, okay? It means that you are probably actually quite intelligent and probably quite naive, right? And looking for something. So this is not, there's no judgment, right? When it comes to people who are in cults are victims, not necessarily, but they can become perpetrators, okay? And that's one of those things. Anyway, I've sort of rambled a little bit, but what I want to do is just sort of, let's just start to think about this stuff. I also need to change that to a 4x3 fucking layout. Because my head keeps doing this, but I'll get there. So I'm really proud of this. Can I take some time to point out that is actually a PowerPoint presentation with a green background and a transparent black box, right? And text, and then I chroma key the window and crop it so that it looks like a fucking overlay. That's pretty fucking good. So I can have live presentations. That's pretty awesome. Anyway. Can we just give me credit? All right. I need a grade, please, mummy. Grade me, mummy. Let me just move the camera over. That's a bit better. Okay. Now, so one. Now I have reordered some of these criteria, and this is just from a Guardian article, right? Thank you, Katie. Katie said I'm impressed, and I'm somebody. I need stick. I'm Lisa Simpson, right? I need someone. I need credit. I need a grade. Grade me. Anyway, it'll get better. I did this like in an hour, but I'm going to make it a lot more cool so that I can actually just have animations and things, and I can actually start to run. So I can just have a slide up and waffle for 3 hours with the one slide up, which is usually how I roll. Anyway, okay, I'm better when I actually do an in-person fucking talk, okay, because I got the script and everything. Video is just a bit different because I start to waffle. But that's all right, whatever. Anyway, so this is taken, this is not formal structure, but this is more of an amalgamated thing that I took. It had the right words to it. It wasn't too wordy, but we will go into thought reform another time. And other criteria, but this one was just a nice 10 things to look for when things are starting to turn destructive. Okay, this is where we talk about, it's where people are exploited or people are subject to sort of thought control, mind control, and those sorts of things. Now that sounds a bit woo, but it's actually true. Okay, you can have a cult of one, which is in a violent relationship, right? I've been in a cult of one, right, where they completely headfuck you, and it's not good. Okay, so these elements can translate. It's a cult of one, right, to a broader, powerful cult like this woke cult that I think is actually taking hold on the internet and in the media. Okay, now there's MLM cults, there's marketing cults, there's business cults. I mean, I would argue that corporate culture is a cult in its own right. It had all the markings of it, which is that you give up part of who you are for the group, and you sacrifice, and that corporate culture has a lot of the markings of a cult, which is why I fucking reject a lot of that corporate culture stuff and refuse to speak jargon. I do if I absolutely have to, but it's why I have such a beef with jargon, because and the same reason with critical theory, anything that starts to change the words you use or truth or makes you communicate in a way where you are concealing actual definitions or even outright changing them, that's where I go, what? Nah, that's mind control. You change the words, you change the thoughts. And I know that that's a Jordan Peterson quote, but it's fucking true, okay? That's Orwellian, it's newspeak, and all of this shit, okay? So reject, if anyone's trying to get you to use words that you wouldn't ordinarily use, right? And change that to conceal meaning, that's a red flag, okay? Now, so let's just look very broadly at the sort of 10 tips. This is from a Guardian article from 2009. Interesting point. Guardian aren't writing about cults much anymore. I wonder why. Anyway, so number one, I've reordered some of them just to, you know, align them with what I'm just trying to make my point. So you've read this one by now because it's been sitting there for fucking 3 minutes or 10 minutes or 50 minutes, whatever time has passed, which is unreasonable fear about the outside world, such as impending catastrophe, evil conspiracies and persecutions. Okay, now, if you're online a lot, you'll start to see things like the world is ending. Okay, now that might be a joke for some people, but some people truly believe it. Okay, now whether this is, I'm not fucking going there with Greta Thunberg. I'm just saying it has a little bit of a culty thing to it, all right, which is that impending catastrophe, whether it's legitimate or not, okay, again, it's not the belief, it's the reaction and the behavior and all of those things, right? So evil conspiracies, right? You either believe that the world is catastrophically ending in 10 years, or you just want to pollute the world and see it end, like that black and white thinking, right? Impending catastrophe. Or this alt-right thing, okay, evil conspiracies, this idea that Joe Rogan is somehow the gateway to the alt-right and that he gives dog whistles, right? Or someone had an interview with fucking Ben Shapiro, so therefore because Ben Shapiro is connected to this person and this person's connected, they've got a crazy board. If they start talking like one of those crazy boards, then they're heading into cult town, right? And I know that I look like I'm talking about because I've got a crazy board. I've got a pug stuck to my wall to troll people, but I'm just saying, like, you hear people talking about turf dog whistles or, you know, all of these fucking, and it's like, no, that's not actually what's happening. No one's communicating in code, right? Okay, so anyway, and persecutions. So need I say more? Okay, persecution complex, this idea that maybe everyone's out to get you, right? Whether that's legitimate or not. Again, there's a tipping point where it becomes rational versus psychotic. And I think that we have reached a tipping point with a large portion of people in the social justice movement where they are moving into catastrophic, psychotic, paranoid. So unreasonable fear, right? Focus on the concept of unreasonable fear. Okay? There is no legitimate reason to leave, right? This is me. The second you question it, despite years of service, right? Despite years of, I still believe that critical theory has some value in policy analysis, making sure that as many voices get included as possible. I've been a feminist. I have been somebody who has actually paid the personal price for being a big mouth when no one else would speak up about women in work and business, okay? And all I did was ask a question or challenge this orthodoxy, and I'm out. I am now on you know what I'm talking about. The black and white thinking, right? Demonizing those that leave the group. That's another sign, okay? It's okay. Like, I can be friends with anybody who move in and out of different groups, in and out of different tribes, but if you demonize those who leave, it's another sign, okay? And that they're always wrong in leaving, right? And this is why I find the turf thing very interesting, because nobody has actually taken the time to sit down and learn what the turf perspective is. And those that actually, to their credit, those that do, generally switch. And they go, oh, that's not what, you know, turf's basically just fucking, they're if you've read Animal Farm, turf's a snowball, right? Everything is just like, no, all they're saying is that self-ID is a problem for the most part. Yes, every movement has its fucking idiots, but, you know, most people are just going, hang on a minute, I don't think that dude's actually genuine. I don't think Jessica Yaniv is legit. Oh my God, that's it. okay? And applying some class analysis, right, around policy and law. But I've talked about this in previous things, so I'm not going to harp on about it. But I just want to make sure, you know, and again, if you're turning around and saying, oh, well, this is a fucking, you know, I'm saying that this is a fucking turf, dog whistle, fucking whatever, right? No, I'm just saying I actually have my own mind and my own words and my own thoughts, okay? I don't need to communicate in code. I never have, okay? So anyone who says that can go fuck themselves, all right? Former members often relate the same stories of abuse and reflect a similar pattern of grievances. So that's an interesting one because a lot of that is that confessional, right? But yes, I am noticing a distinct pattern, okay? I'm noticing it between the people that I know who I know are fully in this cult. They are, yeah, there is a pattern, right? And the definition of abuse is generally pretty micro. Most of the people that I know who are claiming to have trauma don't have that much trauma. It's actually invented trauma based on critical theory. Again, I'm not minimizing it, but at the same time, they haven't had actual fucking trauma, right? Yeah, it's a similar pattern. It follows a pattern, right? There are records, books, news articles, or broadcast reports that document the abuses of the group or leader. Okay, here's one, my video. There's a number of other non-woke publications, right, who are genuinely saying that this is a problem, that the behavior is a problem. Okay, we are getting increasingly more people saying that this is a cult, and no one ever listens early on, but consider this the record, okay? Followers feel that they can never be good enough, okay? So I love using Jamila Jamil. You can never be woke enough, right? You can never use the right words because someone's always got a problem. And the problem is that she started apologizing for every little thing, and now it's just gone to fight. Like, again, it's nice. It's always be kind. Yes, it's good advice, right? But don't be a dumbass, okay? She panders to these fucking idiots, okay? And she apologizes for everything all of the time. It's entertaining. I feel for her because I believe she means well. I just think that she's gotten caught up in this destructive cult, right? And yeah, anyway. The group/leader is always right. Okay, you cannot question it. There is no alternative viewpoint, such as this white fragility stuff that comes from Robin DiAngelo. I understand her point of view on it, but there's other points of view, okay? The group, no amount of data, no amount of statistical fucking analysis, no alternative theory, no alternative idea is going to help, change anybody's mind. What wokeness says, what the Church of Woke says, is what what goes, okay? Which is that mental illness isn't an illness, it's a lifestyle or a kink, so that you can go, oh, well, I just fucking, I feel, yeah, anyway, whatever. Everyone that I'm talking to, anyone who watches this has some fucking person in their mind that fits all of these criteria, okay? Or they're seeing it at work. Look at this in light of corporate culture at the same. It's funny. Anyway, the group or leader is the exclusive means of knowing truth or receiving validation. So no other process of discovery is really acceptable or credible, right? So I think this is self-explanatory. The reason why I borrowed this list is because I don't have to explain this idea, right? It's just there. But this mystical thinking and those sorts of things are where they have special knowledge that you don't, right? I have this special feeling that this is true and correct, right? It's a mystical thinking, right? And it's like arguing, again, like religion, like arguing it's a matter of faith. It's like, well, no, but there are other views, right? And some people don't have that faith. So, and also they just call it anything that, yeah. And actually, that's at the core of this cult. Again, I'm probably going to go off a little bit, but I can go into this in a bit more detail when I start talking a bit more about critical theory. And this, it's all come out of critical theory. But this rejection, right, of it's postmodernism versus modernism, right? And modernism, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. But basically, everything like maths and science and discovery and reason and Socratic thinking, that's all a tool of the white man, which is bullshit. We all know that that's not true, right? That's epistemology, okay, as a discipline. They reject that. So there is absolutely no framework in which you can argue with people that are in this cult, okay, because they reject all of the processes for discovery. You cannot say, but what if, and use Socratic thinking, but what if this? Or you can't use data because the data was designed by fucking the white man and it was used as a weapon. It's basically, like, again, legitimate critical analysis that has been weaponized into something that's fucking mental. Okay, which is that you just got this glazed person who just rejects any fucking thing you say and calls you a Nazi. That's it. Or a TERF or whatever, right? Or a bigot. That's their favourite at the moment, is a bigot, right? The definition of bigot is that you are closed to other points of view. So it's an interesting projection there. Now, absolute authoritarianism without meaningful accountability. Okay, now that one, I think we know that there's no cancel culture, right? Let's just use that. Okay. No tolerance for questions or critical inquiry. Okay? Zero tolerance. So what if a guy like Jessica Yaniv turned around and exploited the self-ID system? Cancelled. Are trans women real women? Cancelled. What is a woman? Cancelled. Woman is an adult human female that creates large gametes. Cancelled. Okay. Bigot, Nazi, TERF. This is called thought terminating cliche, but we'll go into that in a bit more detail. Okay. And another thing, because I like to keep these under an hour. And this is an interesting one because I'm seeing this emerge more and more, right? It costs me money to do these streams, right? I don't make any money. I actually pay out in subscriptions. I pay for gear. I'm completely self-funded, and that's not really likely to change, right? But woke is big bank. There's big bucks in woke at the moment, and a lot of the people have GoFundMes. They have a lot of patrons. They have a lot of YouTube dollars because it's financially more lucrative to have this opinion than it is to have mine. Let's put it that way. Okay. If anything, I fucking probably suffer financially for speaking truth at the moment, and that's just how it is. But I'd rather speak truth and be broke than lies and lay on a soft bed of fucking lies. I can't deal with it. But a lot of these woke YouTubers and stuff, they make $400K a year easy. Right? There's money in it. And they have GoFundMes. They have all of these things. They have crowdfunding, charities. It's a big business, right? And there's not a lot of financial disclosure about it, right? There's a lot of people who've got GoFundMes, right? That I'm just trying to think of people. I don't want to name anyone actually because that becomes defamatory, but there's a few instances where they have crowdfunded for a certain thing and been, seen to be taking the piss a bit, right? So again, where there's money, where there's power, where there's audience to be had, where there's opportunity, there will be crooks that take advantage of it. That should have been in the 10 Commandments. I should write a new 10 Commandments, right? Number 1, corporation's going to corporate. Number 2, crook's going to crook. Number 3, the world isn't rainbows and unicorns. Number 4, thou shalt not kill means thou shalt not kill. Not thou shalt not kill, except when they're a dick or that you disagree with them. Anyway, let's just move on. But those criteria sort of starts to get you thinking. So this is stuff, again, I'm just using a fucking stupid article list, right? There's a lot more theory to this, and I might just focus on little bits. Again, this is at the beginning of a lot of this stuff. I'm just distilling my thoughts, starting to think about it. But I really want people to start pushing back against this stuff, because it is a cult, and it's wrapped in good ideas. You know, like I don't know if you've ever sat down with somebody who has been in a cult before and tried to intervene and try to explain, and they will just go, well, what's wrong with social justice? Don't you like social justice? Don't you want? Are you like? Don't you? Do you hate women? No, I just disagree with your your take on it. Scientologists do the same thing, and a lot of other people, right? Or even evangelical church, right? If you have a different view on Christianity, it's like, well, you don't really understand Jesus then. It's like, well, yeah, I do. I just don't agree with your take on it. It's the same thing with Scientology. It's not what they believe, it is how they behave. Okay, it's very important. Like, I could agree with 100%, which I don't agree with 100% of it, but I could agree with a lot of the premises of social justice and know its position, and still absolutely believe that it is a destructive cult. And that's what I think is going on. Intersectionality has become a cult. Good idea. Decolonization, that's something that we very much need to look at, okay? And, I often shirk around race because I sit there and go, nobody needs my take on this. I'm supportive overall, and I'd like to listen to legitimate voices on this. I'm not going to sit there and go, it's not a thing. It's a thing, right? But the wheels have gone off. When almond milk is racist, you can go fuck yourself. When turmeric is racist, you can go fuck yourself. When food is racist, go fuck yourself. You see how it becomes yeah, like anything taken to its extreme becomes dangerous. And this is one of those things. So anyway, it's just funny because what I find interesting is that this is an unintended consequence, I think, of creating these fandoms and creating these tribes, creating these communities. But that I don't think, I know I didn't. Well, I did, but I didn't expect it to have this. I didn't realize that so many people were so susceptible to these intense, tribal, double down, denial of science and reality. I really thought that people were more capable of critical thinking than they are. That's something that, and new history or new media studies, or new basic fucking critical thinking more than they did. I think and again, that's not me saying anyone's stupid. I'm just, I could be wrong, right? I'm just going with what I know and what I've observed. And I saw the opportunity to have an everybody wins situation where everyone gets to interact with the products and the brands and the celebrities and the people that they love. But I didn't anticipate that this would become tribal and culty, right? So I think it's very important. I think one of the best things that we can do is to become more aware of how cults operate, and also understand that they are separate from the belief, right? I often sit there on Twitter trying to argue a particular point where I'm talking about the behavior and they make it about the belief, and it's like, well, no, we agree on that. So anyway, I think I'm done. If you want to support me, I'm more able to do dedicate time, right? A lot of this stuff, the wheels have fallen off, the sound's bad, all of that stuff, the schedule's bad. It's because I have to it costs me money to do it, and I need to find the time. So if you want to help me do stuff, then do that. That'd be great. But I also understand that I'm not a polished product, but I want you to join me on I don't want you to join my cult. Okay? Think for yourself. I don't want a cult. I actually believe that Tim Pool's built a cult as well. But anyway, whatever. Again, they operate differently. It's how they behave. It's not necessarily what they believe. It's how they behave. So that could be a takeaway. If you want to support me, that would be great. Go to tayasmith.com.au. I hate this shit. Like, subscribe, share. Tell people that they can, if they persevere through my videos, there's occasionally nuggets of knowledge, right? And I have a feeling that my arms jiggled in it and stuff, but whatever. Whatever, okay. I lost like 50 kilos, so I have fucking really bad bingo wings, so I'm like super insecure about it. Anyway, so please don't do any slow-mos of those if they did come on the camera. Okay, I'm going to go. I love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds, of which I took up way too many of today, and I will see you on Friday. I'm probably going to talk about, I don't know yet. I think I want to do a short one on Friday. I also want to try and do an evening one for the UK and Scotland because I've got a lot of people who want to watch me from live but don't get the chance to. So anyway, I love you.